What are you walking past? That's the question that I want to ask you today. You're going to get 3 tips by the end of this video or podcast, wherever you're watching or listening, on this idea of culture and the question, what are you willing to walk past, and why that's so important for culture. I'm Jono White, founder and principal consultant of Clarity. We work with leaders around the world, and thank you so much for listening. It also means a lot when you like, share, follow, subscribe. So if you could do that wherever you're watching or listening, that will help you to keep in the loop with our new content on all things leadership, but it also helps us to get the word out there to help more leaders to become the very best they can be. So today's leadership question of the day is, what are you willing to walk past? And the reason I ask this question is there's a great saying about culture, that culture's not just what you create, but it's what you're willing to walk past. I think there's a better way to say it that has some alliteration, but let's roll with that. Culture isn't just what you create. Culture is what you are willing to walk past. And so that's why I want to ask you today, in your organization, in your team, as a leader, if you're an entrepreneur, maybe you're by yourself, but for you it's about building a culture in the way you operate. What are you putting up with? What are you willing to walk past? And so 3 tips to use this. Firstly, define what you're not willing to walk past. It sounds really obvious, but one of the greatest challenges around culture is we struggle to create culture, and we struggle to to have those crucial conversations where we choose to stop and not walk past something that's not the culture we want to see, because we haven't defined it. So define the culture that you want to see, and define the behaviors. Behaviors are wonderful, because when you talk about a behavior, you're talking about something bigger than issues, bigger than topics, that is going to affect your culture. So what are the behaviors that you really want to see more of or less of in your organization? That's a great question to ask. So you need to define what you're not going to be willing to walk past. The second tip is to have those crucial conversations in the moment. It can be very tempting when we see a pattern, we notice it 3 times today, not so much tomorrow, the day after 4 times. It starts building up and we get frustrated as a leader. We think, you know what, I've had enough with this culture of blah, whatever it is. And so then someone's a scapegoat, right? Poor Jennifer happens to operate in that way, and we sort of lose it, or she gets really publicly, we call it out. And so it's not that there's not a place for that, but what's much more effective generally is having these crucial conversations on the go. When you walk past that behavior, how can you literally stop? What might it look like to literally stop and have a 2-minute conversation with someone, or make a note and wait, but in a couple of hours, like today, address it in a small way. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Make it a small deal, but go there and have the crucial conversation. And if you do that with the things that you are not willing to walk past, then you will find that that behavior starts to change in your organization. And of course, as that behavior changes, so will your culture. The third tip I want to say is look at what you're doing. Look at what you're doing. There's nothing more frustrating for the people following you, the people that you're working with, than if you are not doing what you're saying. One of the keys to leadership, one of the traits of great leaders that I believe every great leader has in common, is that they do what they say they're going to do. You just simply cannot be a great leader if you don't follow through and do what you say you're going to do. It's not that you won't change your mind, but when you say that this is important and you act in a different way, you are not going to have the culture you want, and you're not going to become the leader that you want to be. And so I want to challenge you to the third tip I want to give you is to look inside yourself. Look in the mirror. What are you not only willing to walk past, what are you contributing to? What do you need to change in your own behavior? If you're sick of people being a bit late to particular types of meetings, then ask yourself, when I'm not running the meeting, how good am I at being on time? And if you want to change that, then yes, you need to stop walking past it. You need to have those little crucial conversations. But even before that, what you need to do is, when you're not the one organizing the meeting, if you want to change that culture, then you get there on time. And that's certainly a challenge for me as well in everything I do. It's one thing to say it, but will you do what you say? Because great leaders do what they say they're going to do. There you go. That's the leadership question of the day. What are you willing to walk past? If this has helped you to get clear on anything in your leadership, particularly talking about culture today, then wherever you're watching or listening to this, comment with the word clarity. Everything we do is about helping people with clarity in their leadership, their personal leadership, their team, their organization. And as I said before, thank you so much for listening and watching, and thank you for subscribing and following and liking and sharing. And if you haven't done that, please do that now. That really helps us. Firstly, it helps to get the word out so that more people can become the best leaders they can be. And it also helps you to stay in the loop, because we are producing new content all the time. As an example, I've just released a new book called Step Up or Step Out, How to Deal with Difficult People Even If You Hate Conflict. And you can get that if you go to store.consultclarity.org. That will take you there, store.consultclarity.org, or just go to our main website, consultclarity.org, and there should be information there. And there's lots of new content. We've had more than 1,000 leaders answer the 7 questions on leadership. There's no cost to accessing those. They're literally just on our website. They're also posted all the time on social media. So we would love to support you in your leadership. So follow, and hopefully one of the many things that we're doing can encourage you in your leadership. And it's always great to connect. Thanks for spending some time with me, and I will catch you next time. Cheers.